So often, when men want to express admiration, they reach for the obvious. They say, "You're beautiful," or "You look amazing tonight." And yes, these words are sweet, they are affirming, and they can make a woman smile. But here's the truth, she has heard it before. She has heard it from strangers, from friends, even from passing acquaintances who barely know her name. Compliments on beauty are safe, they are predictable, and after a while, they lose their impact. What most men don't realize is that beauty, while appreciated, is rarely the compliment women crave most deeply, because it speaks only to what is seen, not to what is known. Think about it for a moment. Beauty is external, it is fleeting, it changes with age, with mood, with the day. But what a woman longs for, what touches her at a deeper level, is the sense that someone truly sees her, beyond appearances. To recognize her intelligence, her creativity, her inner world. That is where admiration transforms into intimacy. When you compliment her mind, her ideas, her way of interpreting the world, you're telling her, "I value not just how you look, but who you are when no one else is watching." There's a psychological reason for this. For centuries, women have been primarily measured by their looks, praised for beauty, judged for beauty, or dismissed for the lack of it. And yet, beneath that, there has always been a hunger to be acknowledged as whole beings, to be seen as thinkers, as creators, as problem solvers, as visionaries. So when a man steps outside the script and says, "The way your mind works fascinates me," he is not only complimenting her, he is liberating her from the narrow lens through which she has been viewed for much of her life. And I want you to notice something subtle here. This is not about flattery. It's not about saying, "You're so smart," in the same way someone might say, "You're so pretty." Empty words ring hollow. What creates impact is specificity. When you notice how she articulates her thoughts, when you admire her ability to remain calm in chaos, when you point out the way she connects ideas that others miss, these are compliments that land. Because they tell her that you are paying attention. You are not just seeing, you are observing. You are not just hearing, you are listening. And when a woman feels deeply seen in this way, something shifts in the dynamic. She relaxes, she opens, because suddenly she is not performing, she is not being reduced to an image, she is being recognized for her essence. Compliments that touch her intelligence and her creativity affirm her humanity, and in turn, they create a deeper bond of trust. Now, some men hesitate here. They think, "But if I don't talk about her beauty, won't she feel unappreciated?" And the answer is no. You don't abandon admiration for her physical presence. You expand it. You add layers. You create a balance. Yes, she is beautiful, and yes, you admire her mind. One without the other feels incomplete. But when both are present, she feels whole. This is also where philosophy meets psychology. Philosophically, to love someone is to know them, to witness them in their entirety. Psychologically, recognition is one of the deepest human needs. We long to be validated for what is unique to us, not just for what anyone else could notice. So when you step into this space of complimenting beyond beauty, you are not only meeting her need, you are practicing the art of love itself, the art of attention, of presence, of deep noticing. I often say that what we admire in someone reveals as much about us as it does about them. When you can admire a woman's way of thinking, you are also saying something about yourself, that you are a man who values depth, who values substance, who seeks connection that is not skin deep. And this is why the compliment beyond beauty is so powerful. It elevates the conversation. It elevates the relationship. It elevates you. So, the next time you find yourself wanting to say something kind, pause before defaulting to, "You look amazing." Instead, try this. Tell her that the way she approaches life inspires you. Tell her that her insight helped you see something in a new light. Tell her that the way she carries herself, her grace under pressure, her ability to find humor in difficult moments, that these are the qualities you admire most. Watch how her face changes. Watch how her eyes soften. That reaction, that moment of being truly seen, is worth infinitely more than any generic compliment could ever create. Because in the end, beauty may catch the eye, but recognition of the mind and spirit, that captures the soul. And when you learn to compliment in this way, you're not just giving her words. You're giving her the experience of being valued as a complete human being. And that, my friends, is the kind of compliment she will carry with her long after the moment has passed. There is another kind of compliment that most men overlook, and it is perhaps one of the most profound. It is the acknowledgement of a woman's strength, her resilience, her capacity to endure, to adapt, and to rise again. You see, every woman carries with her invisible stories. Battles fought quietly, sacrifices made silently, burdens borne with little recognition. Some of these struggles are written on her face, but most live beneath the surface, hidden in the private corners of her heart. And yet, despite this, what she is most often complimented for is her smile, her style, her beauty. Rarely do men look deeper and say, "I see your strength. I admire the way you keep moving forward, even when no one knows how heavy it has been for you." This matters because resilience is not loud. It does not announce itself. It is woven into the daily fabric of life, in the way she shows up for others, in the way she keeps going when exhausted, in the way she finds solutions in moments when giving up would be easier. And yet, because it is quiet, it is often invisible, which means that to recognize it requires attentiveness. It requires that you notice not only what she does, but what it costs her to do it. Psychologically, this recognition strikes at a very deep level. Resilience is about identity. It is about self-worth. When you acknowledge her strength, you are telling her that you don't just see her as someone who is there for you, but as someone whose courage is remarkable in its own right. You affirm that she is not only defined by her role, whether as partner, mother, colleague, or friend, but by the force of character that sustains her through those roles. And that kind of compliment validates her entire story, not just the chapter you happen to witness. Let's think about this more philosophically. Human beings crave not only love, but recognition. And what we want most to be recognized for is what we ourselves find most difficult. For many women, strength is both their necessity and their burden. They carry it because they must, but deep down they often wonder if anyone truly notices, or if people simply take it for granted. So when a man steps in and says, "I am in awe of how you handled that situation," or "the way you held everything together inspires me," he is not just offering words. He is offering relief. Relief that her strength has not gone unseen, that her effort is not invisible, that her resilience is, in fact, admired. Now, some men hesitate here because they think that to admire a woman's strength might somehow diminish their own role. They worry that if she is strong, where does that leave them? But the truth is, when you admire strength in her, you don't lose significance. You gain depth, because strength is not about competition. It is about recognition. And when you recognize her resilience, you create a relationship that is not built on dependency, but on mutual respect. Let me give you an example. Imagine a woman who has been working tirelessly, balancing career demands, caring for her family, and still finding the space to support friends in need. On the outside, she may look composed, maybe even radiant, but beneath that composure is exhaustion, sacrifice, and discipline. Most people will comment on how put together she looks. Few will say, "I know how much you are carrying, and I admire your strength for doing it with such grace." Do you see the difference? One is surface, level observation. The other is deep acknowledgement. One notices the mask, the other honors the person behind it. And here is something even more powerful. When you acknowledge her strength, you give her permission to lay it down sometimes. Because part of resilience is the burden of always having to be strong. When you affirm it, you are also telling her that she does not need to perform it constantly in order to be valued. That paradoxically, by recognizing her resilience, you create a space where she can be vulnerable, where she can rest. And that, for many women, is one of the most precious gifts you can give. This is why I say that compliments on resilience are not just words. They are acts of recognition that carry healing. They tell her, I see you not only when you shine, but when you struggle. I see the fight, not just the finish line. And this kind of seeing builds intimacy, trust, and respect in ways that flattery never could. So when you look at the woman in your life, don't just notice her beauty. Don't just praise her achievements. Take a moment to acknowledge her strength. Tell her that you notice how she keeps moving forward when others would give up. Tell her that her courage in the face of difficulty inspires you to be braver yourself. Tell her that her resilience is not only remarkable, it is unforgettable. Because beauty may draw attention, intelligence may earn admiration, but resilience earns reverence. And when you learn to compliment her strength, you are not only honoring her, you are reminding her that she does not carry it all alone. Closing line. To see a woman's strength is to honor her story, and to honor her story is to love her in the deepest sense. There is something deeply human about the longing to feel irreplaceable. We want to know that in a world of billions, we are not simply interchangeable, that there is something about us, our presence, our way of being, that leaves an imprint that no one else could. And for women, this desire is no different. Beyond beauty, beyond resilience, there is a quiet craving to be seen in a way that highlights what makes them singular, what makes them unlike anyone else. This is the third compliment most men rarely give, and yet it is the one that can transform the entire emotional atmosphere of a relationship, the appreciation of uniqueness. The truth is, most compliments women receive are generic. You're amazing. You're wonderful. You're incredible. These words are kind, but they are vague. They could apply to anyone. They don't capture her essence. They don't reveal that you have been paying attention to the specific ways she stands apart. And that is why, though well-intentioned, they often fall flat. What touches her deeply is not a compliment that any man could give, but one that only you could give, because it comes from your lived experience of who she is in all her nuance. Think of it this way. Uniqueness lives in the details. It is in the way she laughs at her own jokes, the way she instinctively reaches for the hand of someone who is nervous, the way her eyes light up when she speaks about something she loves. It's in the words she chooses, the metaphors she uses, the rituals she creates in daily life. When you notice these details, when you bring them back to her in the form of admiration, you are saying, I don't just see a woman, I see you. And that is a radically different experience. Psychologically, this type of compliment speaks to her longing for significance. All of us want to be known, but more than that, we want to be known in our specificity. We want someone to say, it is this thing you do that moves me, that delights me, that makes you unforgettable. For women who are often pressured to conform to beauty standards, to social roles, to expectations of how to act, being celebrated for their individuality is liberating. It tells them that they don't need to perform sameness to be valued. They can be fully themselves, and that is precisely what makes them extraordinary. There is also a philosophical depth here. To recognize someone's uniqueness is to acknowledge their unrepeatable existence. There has never been another person exactly like her, and there never will be again. When you admire her uniqueness, you are affirming her existence as something irreplaceable, and that kind of compliment transcends flattery. It becomes existential. It becomes a recognition of her essence, of her being. But once again, let's remember that this is not about vague praise. Saying, you're special, might sound meaningful, but it doesn't land if it isn't grounded in truth. The compliments that stay with her are the ones tethered to something real. For example, the way you stay curious about the world inspires me to look at life with more openness. Or, the way you can make a room lighter with your humor is something rare. I've never seen it in anyone else. Or even as simple as, The way you listen when I speak makes me feel understood in a way no one else ever has. Do you notice the difference? These words are not abstract. They are intimate, specific, undeniable. And here is the beauty of this. When you name her uniqueness, you create a mirror for her that she may not even have for herself. You help her see qualities she didn't realize were so impactful. And in doing so, you are not only giving her recognition, you are also giving her self-awareness. You are saying, this is the gift you bring into the world. Don't underestimate it. And that is the kind of compliment that does not just make her feel good in the moment. It can shift the way she carries herself long after. Let me add this: appreciating her uniqueness also requires vulnerability on your part. It requires that you slow down, that you observe, that you dare to articulate what you see. Because sometimes men feel uncomfortable saying things that are so personal, so specific. They fear sounding too sentimental, or they fear that naming details will somehow expose too much of their own emotional world. But it is precisely that vulnerability that makes the compliment powerful. Because it is not just about telling her who she is, it is about revealing what she means to you. So the next time you are tempted to fall back on a broad statement, "You're wonderful, you're the best," pause. Ask yourself instead, what is the one thing about her that no one else notices, but I do? Say that. Share that. Give her the gift of being seen not as one among many, but as the only one of her kind. Because in the end, it is not the compliments that could be said to anyone that women carry with them. It is the ones that could only be said to them. There is one final compliment that most men rarely give, and yet it is perhaps the most transformative of all. It is the compliment of impact. To tell a woman not only that you value her, not only that you admire her strength or her uniqueness, but that she changes you. That because of her presence, you see differently, you feel differently, you live differently. This kind of recognition strikes at the core of human longing, the desire to know that we matter. If you think about it, this is one of the deepest psychological needs we carry. We want to believe that our existence has left an imprint on another person, that our presence is not neutral but meaningful. And for women, who are so often expected to give, to nurture, to hold space for others, there is a profound craving to know that this giving has not gone unnoticed. That the way she shows up in the world is not just taken for granted, but is transformative. Now, here's the thing: most compliments stop short of this. Men will say, "You're beautiful, you're strong, you're special." But rarely do they go one step further to say, "Because of you, I am different. Because of you, my life has expanded." Yet this is the language that cuts to the deepest layers of intimacy. When you acknowledge a woman's impact, you are not just describing her qualities, you are describing her effect on you. You are saying, "I don't just see you, I feel you. I carry you in the way I live." Think about the difference between these two statements. One man says, "You're kind." Another says, "Your kindness has taught me how to be softer with myself." The first is nice. The second is unforgettable. One names a trait. The other names the transformation that trait creates. And that is the difference between surface admiration and soulful recognition. Philosophically, this is where love becomes generative. Love is not just about seeing someone, it is about being changed by them. To compliment a woman's impact is to acknowledge that she is not a passive character in your story, but an author of it. That she has shaped not only the way you experience her, but the way you experience the world. And that is not just a compliment. It is a kind of reverence. Let's bring it closer. Maybe her laughter has softened the heaviness of your days. Maybe her courage has pushed you to take risks you would otherwise avoid. Maybe her way of listening has given you the rare experience of feeling truly understood. Maybe the way she moves through the world has expanded your sense of what's possible. These are not small things. These are seismic. And yet, because they are subtle, they are often left unsaid. But imagine what happens when you do say it. When you tell her, because of you, I believe more in myself, or because of you, I know what real love feels like, or because of you, I see beauty in places I never noticed before. These words do not just affirm her, they elevate her existence. They tell her that her life has meaning beyond herself, that her being is not just appreciated, it is impactful. And here is something powerful to consider. When you recognize her impact, you are also reminding her of her legacy. We often think of legacy as something we leave behind after we are gone. But legacy is also what we create in the lives we touch every day. By naming her influence on you, you are saying, your legacy is alive, here, in me. And that gives her not only validation, but purpose. Some men resist this because it requires vulnerability. To admit impact is to admit that you have been moved, that you are not impervious, that you are not the only source of influence in the relationship. But this is not weakness. It is strength. To say, you change me, is not to diminish yourself, but to reveal the courage of being permeable, of being open to transformation. And this truly is where intimacy deepens. Because intimacy is not built only on admiration of qualities. It is built on recognition of influence. It is not just, I love how you are, but I love how you make me more than I was before. That is what turns compliments into connection. That is what turns words into meaning. So I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you told the woman in your life how she has changed you? Not just that she is wonderful, but that her presence has altered your trajectory in some way. That her love, her perspective, her courage, or her spirit has left you undeniably different. If it has been too long, or if you have never said it, start now. Because this is the kind of compliment that does not just make her smile in the moment, it anchors her sense of worth for years to come. In the end, beauty draws admiration, strength earns respect, uniqueness commands attention. But impact is what makes someone unforgettable. Closing line, to recognize a woman's impact is to tell her, your life has not only touched mine, it has transformed it.